Hello and welcome to another one of our interview series. I'm pleased to have with us today Victoria Smith, who's a collaborative divorce lawyer and divorce mediator in Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Victoria. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
So Victoria takes a different approach to helping families through their separation and divorce, focusing on what she calls conflict resolution advocacy rather than adversarial advocacy. So today we're here to talk about what the heck that means and why this approach can have a positive and dramatic effect on the outcome of a family's post-separation negotiations. So let's get started. We know that one aspect of a lawyer's job is to ensure that their client understands their rights and obligations under the law and to advocate for their client's point of view, of course. You have a particular approach that you look at for advocacy for separating families. Can you describe that approach for our viewers?
Sure, Stephanie, I will. And maybe to answer your question, we can sort of look at where are we coming from, right? When you ask the question about it's important, one of the important jobs for lawyers is to explain the law to our clients, right? Which is, of course, true. And that's really grounded in where we came from. Because where we came from in a traditional model is the idea that everybody that has problems, the problems are going to be solved by going to lawyers and having lawyers argue their legal case based on their rights and their obligations to a judge. Mm-hmm. And the judge would apply the law and render a decision. So that's really the adversarial model. That's what the whole legal system is based on. Mm-hmm. And when you look at what that means that all problems are going to be defined within the framework of the law. Mm-hmm. And that what lawyers used to do and traditional lawyers do is that they act for their own client, that their job is to try to argue the very best possible case they can for their particular client based on legal precedent, based on the information and evidence they can dream up and put forward, and based on technical legal argument. And so what both lawyers are doing, they may or may not be talking very much to one another. The clients may not be very much a part of this process. And that what the lawyers are doing is that they're putting the problem these people have into the hands of somebody that doesn't know these people. And that decision is being rendered on the basis of the law, the way the judge hears it and decides it. Mm-hmm. What is really happening today, though, Stephanie, is that 99% of cases in everywhere aren't going to judges. They're being settled. People are settling their own cases today. That's what's happening. And that has changed everything. So if we're not having our cases decided by a judge, it's different. And we as lawyers have to be very different. And so what I see is that I am a settlement lawyer, that I am a conflict resolution lawyer. So what does that mean? You've asked me, what does that mean? So I'm still a lawyer for my client, right? I'm still there. I'm still there to advance what's important to them and to be their ally and to be their support person. So, but I look at it very differently. And a whole bunch of ways I looked at it. What I see as my job is to support each of my clients, to empower them to make their own best choices. And I am not anymore looking that everything is based solely on what the law provides for. I'm really saying the law is important. So to come back to your question, yes, part of my job is to explain to my clients the legal model. Okay, here's the law. Okay, here's the framework of the law. And you know that sometimes the law is helpful and clear, and sometimes it's pretty gray, and sometimes it's a very blunt instrument, and sometimes it doesn't fit for them, and sometimes people don't think it's fair. So I'm saying to my clients here, all of my clients have to understand their rights and their obligations, and I kind of call it the football field of the law. Like, here it is, okay? We understand that. Okay, that's one piece of the work that we're doing. But what is most crucial, I think, to the work that we're doing now as lawyers, that I'm doing with my clients, and I think all settlement lawyers are doing, is to say, what matters to you? To each person I work with, what's important here? What do you care about? What are your goals? What are your values? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your kids? What do you want for your former partner? and to be asking people about what matters to them.
Yes.
And to help them understand that, help them voice it, help them prioritize it. You don't get everything you want. You have to decide what's most important, what you're prepared to give up for what matters the most. Mm-hmm. And to try to help people create outcomes that will meet their most important values and their most important goals. Mm-hmm. And to do that is very different than when I used to be a courtroom lawyer. Completely different approaching the work that I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's really interesting. And it's about, as you said, the global picture of the law. So laying that out so that the clients are working within these very broad parallel lines, right? Your football field. But they have the power, number one, to be decision makers, and because they know what's best for their family and their children and their lives going forward. Yeah. But also that they're able to make creative solutions for all of those issues that's before them, that's grappling them in a way that fits not only with their lives and what they want going forward, but also within the context of that law of the law.
Yeah, and I think the traditional model kind of assumed that clients couldn't do this, right? That they weren't capable of it. They didn't know the law. Lawyers had to argue the law. The judges were going to do it for them. This philosophy now is to say, actually, it's your life, as you just said, Stephanie. My job is to help you do this the best way because you're going to go on with this. This is your life, and I'm going to help support you, give you the support, the information, the education, the coaching that you need to do this, to resolve this in the very best way you can. Mm-hmm. So a whole bunch of things are different. Mm-hmm. One of the things is I started to talk about is this idea of interests or goals or values. Mm-hmm. And to appreciate, which the law can't appreciate, is that things that matter to people are way beyond the law. They're way beyond maybe the substantive issues that we're talking about. How do we parent the kids? What's that look like? How do we divide our property? How do we resolve support? I mean, those are our substantive issues in all family cases that we're going to solve. But what we know is that what matters to our people are their emotional and psychological needs. They matter a lot. Mm-hmm. People want things like they want to be acknowledged for their contributions to the marriage. They want to feel that they have a degree of self-respect, right? That they can look themselves in the mirror when this is over and feel they acted honorably. They want to feel that their partner treated them decently. They want things like, I don't want to have a ton of resentment between us when we're finished this. So that every pickup and delivery is, when the kids, I drop the kids off or they're dropped back, it's full of conflict. We want to be able to go to their graduation, to go to their games. We want to be able to talk without all of us being in conflict.
Yeah.
We want...
Well, I was just going to say, and to understand that and to explore that together with the former couple and with their lawyers or with the mediator is so critical to being able to build those creative solutions. Because if we know what solutions people, what matters to them, we can build solutions that meet what matters to them.
100%. So, for example, here's a great example. One of the one of the toughest issues we often sort out is spousal support, right? That some can be our tough one. And, our law might
very
say,
black and white.
Our law would say if you've had a long-term marriage, we've both got lots of those. You got a long-term marriage and couples are separating, you'd be saying, okay, we're going to make a decision based on today. You know what? Come back when things change. We're going to come back when big things change. There's no certainty to it. There's no finality to it. And we really don't know what it's going to look like. Many people, most people that I work with will say, I don't like that. I want a degree of certainty. I want to plan my life. I want to know what my obligations are. I want to be able to meet those and move forward. Or people may say, I want autonomy and a clean break. Like, I don't want every year that I have to go back and deal. Or, if you've been let's say you've been the spouse that stood back in the marriage and you gave up your career, you stood back, you worked part-time. The traditional law would say, well, you got to get back into the workforce. And until you do, you have to account to your former partner Let's see all your job applications. Let's see the places you went. Let's see what the replies were. A lot of people are going to say, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And so we can say, how do you want to sort out support to meet a goal for certainty and autonomy, right? A clean break. We can do that. But those goals are going to inform the kinds of solutions that we can help them put together. And that isn't what a traditional model does at all, right? It doesn't afford that. Judges don't do that. That's not what the law offers. It doesn't care about what people's goals are. It just cares it's a default set of rules for people that don't agree otherwise. What we're doing is much more nuanced and much more rich.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I have lots of people calling into me and contacting our office to, just basically to say, I'm separating. I need help, right? I need to make an appointment. I need help. And, we talk to clients right from the get-go, and we talk to them about, of course, facts, what's your situation, and just get some of the real meat of what's going on, just to get an idea. But we also try, even at that very initial conversation, is to say, have you thought about process? Have you thought about, and when I say process, negotiation process, like collaborative divorce, mediation, litigation, because most people, when they separate, they just think, I'm separating, I need to go get a lawyer. I don't know. I don't care who, who does my neighbor know of a lawyer, right? That lawyer only does real estate law. They don't know that there are differences amongst lawyers, and even within family and divorced lawyers, and mediators and divorce professionals, there's a difference. Huge. And so what you're talking to us today about, and why I think it's so critical, is that our viewers can understand that if you want and are seeking out a litigation process, first of all, know what that means. And second of all, seek out a lawyer who is going to have that more traditional approach, that what you've been talking about, Victoria. But if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for a particular lawyer with a particular style and style of practice, it's really important that you do your research. And everything about Up a Notch Learning is about do your research, be informed, and then make your own decisions. No one's making any decisions for you. We want to make sure that our viewers and our community members are informed about all of their options. And so what you're talking about today is so important, Victoria, because it's helping our viewers to understand that even within divorce lawyers, there's different approaches. And you have to, as a client, as a divorcing person, you have to seek out the kind of divorce lawyer that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's a bit of buyer beware in a way. And it's a little bit that you're in the driver's seat, right?
It's a lot that you're in the driver's seat. Absolutely.
You're the client.
100%.
You're the client. Your life is at stake, your well-being, your outcome, your kids, your money,
future.
Your future. And so lawyers have very different, as you say, Stephanie, styles, philosophies, specialties. I used to litigate for the first 15 years of my career, but for the last 20 years, I haven't gone to court at all. All I do is help people settle by being a collaborative lawyer or a mediator. That's all I do. And so if you're looking for someone who goes to court, I'm not your gal. But if you're looking for someone who is going to help you settle your case, then you need to be looking for someone who specializes in that area, who has skills in that area, and who frankly likes to practice, believes they can have them offer the most value in that area. And I think it's important to know, I always say, I believe strongly that if you're faced with a divorce, the two most important decisions you're going to make, what's the process you're going to choose, and what lawyer will you work with? Really important to make that decision up front. And to know there are differences and to make a wise choice.
And so in our course at Up a Notch Learning, the one that's called Healthy Thriving Families, we have two really important modules that speak exactly to that. One is choosing a process. And the second one is choosing a professional. And in there, I'm not at all at Up a Notch Learning. I and our company, we're not here to advocate for a particular process. We're simply here to make sure that you understand what's the differences, and you understand on the process piece and on the lawyer piece, and to make sure that you make your own informed choice.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's one thing I think about process. I mean, I think the reality is some people will feel, Stephanie, that they need to go to court. And some cases do need to go to court.
Yes.
And it's not possible to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
The statistics are the numbers of cases that will ultimately be decided by a judge are very small. Even cases that go to court, most of those are going to ultimately settle before the judge renders a decision after trial. That's just where we are today. Mm-hmm. So even if you're going to be litigating, it's important, I think, to be asking, do I have a lawyer who has settlement skills, even if I need to be in court, right? Mm-hmm. So absolutely right. And to say, what does a settlement skill mean, right? What does that mean?
Okay, so everyone can write down, that's the question you go to your lawyer with. Do you have settlement? And then you say, and it was Victoria Smith and Stephanie Dobson in their Up and Out Learning interview that said, here you go. This is your question number one for your lawyer. Do you have settlement skills, or what are your settlement skills?
What are your settlement skills? Yeah.
But it's interesting because that is the next piece to that is connection. And one really important thing, as you describe in your divorce process, you're going to be choosing a lawyer and working with them extensively, whether it's for 2 months, 2 years, hopefully not much longer than that, but for quite a long time, and they're going to be part of your life, and you need to be able to work with your lawyer and connect with them on a certain level. And so, can you talk a little bit about that connection and why that's so important and what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important that you feel that you're working with a lawyer who understands you, who will support you, who you like, right? Who you feel that you can trust them, that they'll have your back. And I think a piece of that you're going to feel is do they listen to you? I think one of the things I've learned over the years is to speak a little less and to listen a little more. I think I used to think, as I came out as a young lawyer, Stephanie, I think we were taught at law school to think that even if we were only 27 years old, that we were supposed to tell clients the answer, that we were supposed to, that our job as a lawyer was to say, here's your legal right, here's what I think you should do, here's what I think the outcome is, I'm going to march off and do that for you. Mm-hmm. And I think we came out with that. What I've learned over the years is what I have to start with is to listen, mm-hmm. to really listen, to be really curious, to listen without judgment. Because what I might want to do for me may not be what's best for this person. I might really need to listen, try to get in their shoes, try to have a person that feels that I am truly engaged and authentic and I have empathy for who they are. So number one, I think, is to listen deeply and feel that you're heard and you're respected and you're valued. I think another piece of connection, though, Stephanie, is to say that you can be real with your client. Like, for me to do really good work with a client, one, I think, is they have to know I have their back. I think they have to feel that I'm there for them, that they can trust me, that they can lean on me, that I can coach them when I need to, but also that I can reality check. So part of my job, I think, is if I see a client who's doing something that isn't going to be helpful to themselves, where they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, which we all do in our own conflicts, where they might be asking for something that isn't within the framework of the law, and the other person has no interest in giving, so they're not being real about what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. And my job is to help them be real and to say, can I talk to you about this? And I may say to people, I often say, Stephanie, to somebody that I've gotten to know, I'm worried about something. Can we talk about it? I'm worried that what you're doing isn't helping. Okay, I'm worried that what you're asking for, first of all, your partner isn't prepared to give you and doesn't have to give you. So let me understand better why you want that. And maybe let's talk about a different way to go about it. For example, you get somebody who says, we've had a 25-year marriage. I told her to work the whole time. She never did, and I shouldn't have to pay support. And I'm going, 25-year marriage with a partner who stayed home, you owe support. It's a support case, right? But let me understand why you don't want to pay support. And it may be because I want to retire at a certain time. It may be because I don't want to write a check every month, and that's really painful for me. It may be when I know that, I can say, there's a support issue here, but let's talk about a way that she might say yes. So part of working, the critical importance of connection is to be able to have a client who feels they can show up supported, show up in this process and feel safe and supported and confident. And also that I can work with them, a reality check with them to say, how else could we go about this to get what's most important to you? Because part of my job is not just to connect with my own client, but to connect with their partner. Like I have to know the other person and work well with the other person. They have to work well with me. Likewise, one of the fabulous things about a collaborative process is both lawyers are building working relationships with the other person as well as their own client. Because all we're trying to find is what can you accomplish that you like, meets your needs, but your partner can say yes to. They agree. Because I have to find a way they say yes. I don't have a judge to make it happen. So part of, I think, the critical piece of connection is this ability to be able to reality check and to be honest with your own client, and then to be able to achieve a realistic, durable, good outcome. If both lawyers can do that with their own clients, that is the power of a collaborative process, right? We become realistic. We come hearing each other. We have our clients ready to say, you need to know this really matters to me. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is so important. Let me understand what's a 10 for you and be able to trade. Okay, if I do this, will you do that? That's kind of also what we're offering that is new or different, which is negotiation skills, the capacity to create creative ideas for resolution.
Yeah. And when you talk about being able to be real with your clients and to be able to ask them, what's really meaningful to you, or what really matters to you, or I'm really worried about such and such, that ability to connect with a client and for the client to be comfortable enough to say, such and such isn't working for me, or can you help me to find a better way to do this because this needs tweaking, right? And to be able to be open and transparent and to have your lawyer help guide you through your divorce process, but while remaining in the driver's seat.
Yes. It isn't about me saying, when I'm honest, I think you need to do this, or I won't let you do this, or I insist you do this. It's more saying, I'm worried about this. I've done this a long time. Can I talk to you about my worries? Right? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Can we go about it differently? And if someone says, yeah, I did think of that. Thanks a lot. I'm still good. Right? Or here's my solution to that if it happens. That's also, I think it's the helping my clients think through their thinking. Walk beside them. Okay, you're thinking of this. Are you thinking of this because you're tired? Because you've had it? Is it because it's wearying, this work, right? Have you thought about, you're saying you don't need support because you got a new job. What if your probation period doesn't work out? Oh, what if you don't get that inheritance you thought you'd get? Can we build something in to address that? So part of advocacy in a settlement process isn't sitting back and singing Kumbaya, right? It's saying, I'm not imposing the law or what I would do. I'm trying to understand what you want. And part of the value I bring is to what if, to reality check, to tweak it, to make sure it's actually going to work. And I think that's a piece of, and the other thing I would say about process, Stephanie, is to create a process where people feel they can do this work, because we're wired for fight or flight. And one of the challenges, one of the problems with the old process, the adversarial process, is people were attacked. And when you feel attacked, you shut down, and we're not open to creative thinking. We're not open to hearing other people's thoughts or ideas. We shut down. That's just what we're wired as people to do. So part of this is to create a place that isn't easy, but feels safe. Feels like it's okay to entertain a creative idea. It's okay if I hear what you want, because you're going to listen to what I want.
And you don't have to say yes, but you have to listen and consider it. And we can find some compromise within there.
And if you can do that, we both know that what you can do what you can do is create an outcome that maybe neither lawyer dreamed of. These people will help, will be part of their crafting. It works for us. And that we did it without scorched earth. Right? We did it without harming relationships, putting the kids in the middle of conflict, and destroying our financial well-being is part of what this philosophy is all about as well.
Yeah, exactly. So my favorite part of every interview is our top 3 tips. And so some of this might be a repeat or a summary of what you've already said, or if you have new ideas of your top 3 tips for our viewers as to what they should be looking for when they're hiring a lawyer post-separation. So let's have it, your top 3 tips.
Well, I think the first one is a recap, which is know that you are empowered to choose the right lawyer for you. So when you get a name of a lawyer, when you go online, look at their website. What is the message on that website, right? Most lawyers will offer some time, complimentary, 15 minutes or half an hour. Have that phone call or whatever with a lawyer and get a sense of whether they're the right vibe. When you interview a lawyer, ask, as we said, what's your specialty? What's your passion? How will you support me, right? Am I going to be involved? Are you going to, what's your track record for resolution? So first of all is, I think, to make sure that you choose the right person and the right process. The second one, I think, is to invite your lawyer to challenge you. Just as we said, to say, I don't want you just to tell me what I want to hear. I want you to tell me what I need to hear. Right?
That's a hard one.
It's a hard one, right? Yeah. And I want you to support me, but I want you to be honest and real with me. So invite your lawyer to do that. And I think the last thing I would say, Stephanie, and this is more for the clients themselves, is to take a long view of things, right? Sometimes we are caught in the middle, right as we go through a separation. We're a little bit in the forest. We're a bit in the weeds. Things that are so important and so hurtful and so tough. Over time, I ask all my clients, where do you want to be in 5 years? Okay, what are your long-term goals, right? And my job, I say to my clients, is I want you to be able to look back 5 years from now and say, I made good choices. I did well, right? I did the best I could. I made good choices, and I'm where I want to be. And so I think having a lawyer who will help you stand back, take a long view, is not to dismiss the immediacy of your issues at all. We got to look at those too. But I think you're serving yourself well if you can have a lawyer and you yourself can take a long view, a holistic view of what really matters. So if I fight for this little tiny thing, is it worth it? Is it worth it in cost? Is it worth it in breached relationships? Right? Is it enough? And to really be able to have this kind of conversation. So when you're choosing a lawyer, I'd raise that. I'd be thinking, this is what I want. I want to make sure that you help me, but I want to make sure that we do something. And does this jive with the kind of lawyer you're talking with?
And it's so interesting because, a lot of people who are separating, they may have never had any interactions with a lawyer. They may not even know a lawyer. They might know that a lawyer maybe lives down the street from them, or they might have, when they bought their house, they might have gone into one lawyer's appointment to sign some documents. And that's really the extent of what they know as far as a lawyer. But the cause and effect of I'm separating and therefore I need to hire a lawyer is a very vague and random sort of starting point, but it's so important. These questions that you're letting our viewers know is so important because there's so much more to who do I choose? What process do I choose? What do I want? What kind of advocacy do I want? How much do I want to stay in the driver's seat? And those are the questions that are so important and that will really help our viewers and our community members to get that better resolution for their family, because at Up a Notch Learning, what we're really wanting is for separating and divorcing families to be healthy and thriving all around the world. And so these kind of tips, when people can listen to this interview right at the start of their separation, the earlier that people can get this information, the better choices that they can make, because the choice of lawyer and the choice of negotiation process, as you said, is going to impact every aspect of your separation, but also every aspect of your future and what that future will look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to thank you so much, Victoria, for joining us today and for agreeing to come on as an interviewee. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Victoria.